A whole new series makes its way here to RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. This is part of your RaceSpot TV prime time viewership, and we've got ourselves this fantastic GT3 series. This is the Synology GT3 series, of course, here live on iRacing Live next. Welcome to the 2017 Synology GT3 Championship. We're on iRacing Live and RaceSpot TV and brought to you by TMS Motorsports. They offer a comprehensive range of tuning parts for all makes and models with competitive pricing, worldwide delivery and great customer service. Visit TMS Motorsports today at tmsmotorsports.co.uk. We are here at the land down under. Phillip Island will host round number 1 here of this GT3 Championship. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Jake Sperry here alongside with Connery Maddock. Connery, we're very quickly going to put up this graphic on screen. This is the calendar for this season. It runs from here in January all the way to November, and there's some fantastic races in between.
Yes, there are some absolutely fantastic races going to be going on in this series. Most of the races will be around about 1 hour long, but there's a couple of endurance events thrown in that will be 2 hours long as well, Jake. And this should be an amazing season.
Oh, it certainly should be, as qualifying for this first race of the season is pretty much over and done with. Your grid then will look as follows here for this series, and it's a surprise at the front. Arunom, the number 41 machine, has a 6/10 of a second advantage. The only man to break the 125 barrier there with a 125.7. Scott Brazier there in second. Craig Parks is there in third position there with Barry Baird in fourth. His brother Tony Baird is there in fifth with Jason Dilworth sixth. And the champion from last season, Benjamin Hackerson, can only qualify seventh with Paul Walmsley there in eighth overall. Of course, we are still seeing the last of the laps come in here. Got Neil Bamber currently 9th, Alan McCain in 10th, with Adam Atherton in 11th, JPW Ringwood there in 12th, Simon Underhill, expect some good things from him in 13th. Then you got the likes of Raoul Huben, Lee Bunker, Dion Phillips, Adam Shipstone there in 17th position, Bart Daleman there in 18th with Mike Mason, Soren Cruz, John Cook, Ryan Walker there with Martin Gelenke, Philip Gregory, Simon Jackson, and all the rest as we keep cycling on that. Likes of John Roberts in there as well, and the likes of Paul Martin as well. Connery, a very star-studded grid. 48 cars then will be taken to this grid, 47 have set on lap time, so a lot to play for in not only just the top positions, but the bottom positions as well.
Yeah, those are some relatively close times right there, especially in your middle of your pack. We have around about 10 or so drivers all within the 127 mark. There's even more in the 128 as well. So there's going to be some very, very close racing in the middle of your pack. I believe since this is an hour-long race, we will actually be having a standing start right here. So lots of GT cars not used to a standing start. So this should certainly be interesting in the first couple of seconds of your race.
Oh, it certainly will be. You've got to keep your eyes peeled for any action that goes on. There is a tendency to see an accident here or there, especially into this turn number 1 and into turn number 2, the southern loop. It is one of those things along the Garden Straight where everyone thinks they can carry so much speed into turn number 1, and a lot can get themselves into trouble later on in this race. That is it for qualifying. The grid will now assemble for 2 minutes here, otherwise you start from pit lane. So a lot to be desired then for quite a few cars, and as far as I can see, you're right, it is a standing start here, which is a little bit unakin to see here in GT3 cars, but it does add its own little show. Also, something to remember, Connery, is that battle of, well, that balance of performance, you can say. 5 different cars all looking to try and get the best possible times.
Yes, indeed, and it's somewhat surprising we actually have a Ford GT on the front row. You don't usually see that. That is Scott Brazier right there on the front row in second place, just missing out on the pole position by actually quite a margin right there. Aero Nom just putting in absolutely fantastic. And actually, Aero Nom is also in the Ford GT, so it's an all Ford GT front row. That is absolutely fantastic to see.
Oh, it certainly is right now. As you can see, the cars looking to grid up. Of course, Teams Championship involved as well. Expect the likes of Synology, TMS Motorsports, the likes of Bodine Solutions and Acorn Printing, all to be looking to try and take that crown away come the end of the season. We do have night races here in a season like this. We have morning conditions, afternoon conditions, evening conditions, you name it. We have it 1 hour's worth. We also have 2-hour specials come the mid part of your season. And for the first 6 weeks, we will be here one after the other then, waiting for a few cars then to grid up in the last 35 seconds. Of course, something else that you have to remember here is the racing line. It normally seems to tend to the drivers on the even numbered side of the grid, the ones on the left-hand side as you look down straight, right-hand side probably on your screen right now. So expect the likes of Brazier and Barry Baird to get themselves a good start then as they come towards turn number 1. We are still waiting for the driver of Alan McCain here, who is just going to be keeping everyone waiting. He gets himself up onto the grid, and now we play the proverbial waiting game then for just a few moments' time, because we are going to hear the engine notes on the dawn of a new era open up. And the new era begins here on Racebox. A shocker of a start from Scott Brazier here as they all try to funnel down towards turn number 1. Aero Nom goes unchallenged then into that first corner. Let's go 3 wide in the middle of your pack. And for the moment, it seems all at the front is calm and clean as they head towards the southern loop as they keep on going at it here. It seems that we have a few cars running wide, and yes, there's 2 off the track then towards the front of your field, and 1 of the 3 even there as they've gone off. So already here, Connery, a lot of cars getting caught out. Craig Parks, one of them, started 3rd.
Yes, indeed. An absolutely shocking start there for Scott Brazier. He didn't actually end up running wide. Some of the other cars, including Jason Dilworth, also ran wide there. So no car contact so far from what I can see. So apart from those cars running wide, as actually we have a car in the tyre barriers, that is Alan McLean in that 010 car. He is having some issues, and that actually was car contact with Roll Hoban.
Yeah, and we can definitely see there that casualties will certainly be high in the opening part, but for Aeronome, he is doing what he needs to do here at the front of this field. He's trying to break away from the driver behind him there. That is Barry Baird in the 006 machine, looking to try and get himself there. Third place is his brother, Tony Baird. Then you got Scott Brazier, Paul Wormsley, Neil Bamber, and you can see the reigning champion has dropped a mile down the order, and that is the driver of Ben Hackerson, who actually is serving a slowdown penalty as we speak right now. So really struggling here, and will lose another position, Connery. So for what is the reigning champion, a poor start to his title defense.
Yeah, poor start for the season for Benjamin Hackerson. He's just got to start a recovery drive right there. He's lining up Simon Jackson for the pass. The Synology driver going down towards the inside right there. I don't think he'll have too much of an issue getting past during this first corner. There goes Paul S. Martin in the Audi as well, trying to make his way past. And there's a car off ahead. That is Mike Mason in the 048. He is having some major issues getting that car back on track. Hopefully he can rejoin safely.
Yeah, and straight on at turn number 1 is not the place that you want to be around a circuit like this. Mike Mason there in the 48 was 16th when he crossed the line. He's lost a couple of positions there, and that is going to affect his chances come the later part of this race. But we do have this train starting to form now behind the likes of, say, Adam Atherton right now. You've got the likes of Raul Hoban there looking at it. Adam Shipstone, Soren Kroos there in the back of this group as well here. Fantastic little trains starting to develop here as we do have a battle heading to Lukey Heights. It's Scott Brazier in the 50, battle for third. Tony Baird there down on the brakes, and for the moment all stays line astern. But that run, that slipstream run into turn number 1, it's going to be so crucial, Connery, especially at a circuit like this where the average speed is a lot higher compared to other circuits.
Oh yeah, definitely, and Scott Brazier will be maybe trying to line up that draft pass coming down the straight. I think he's a little bit too far back to be able to do anything with the Seagate driver right in front of him of Tony Baird. So Tony Baird will be in front, coming down into this very, very long right-hander of turn 1. It's very, very deceiving. If you go too wide through there, you can shrug off an absolute ton of speed. If you see Scott Brazier just get a little bit nervous on the brakes, there goes Tony Baird. He's going to run wide, and here comes Scott Brazier down the inside as easy as you like.
Easy as you like, but it's not over and done with here. They take this Stoner corner here, turn number 3, and then they've got to deal with Honda, turn number 4. Of course, a former test track for the MotoGP team there of the Repsol Hondas. And now you can see here the battle's even going on further behind, likes JP Ringwood then trying to fend off the driver of Simon Underhill in that 007 machine as they head themselves into Siberia here, this left-hand corner, and they wait to get themselves going back out again. And there's been a crash behind in the hairpin as well there, Connery, and quite a few cars now stacked up together. Soren Kroos and Galenki then almost side by side.
Yes, indeed they are. We'll have to. We actually are showing a replay of that incident. I can't quite find it on my screen right now. Hopefully you can just find that one, Jake, as we have another incident ahead of these guys as well. This car going off into the gravel trap. That will be Adam Shipstone in that 057 car. So a couple of drivers struggling in these early laps.
Yeah, and a big tank slapper there from Shipstone as they came over Lukey Heights, and that is a very fearsome corner to have an off, and you will never want to see an off around a corner like that. Aeronom has opened the gap though at the front of your field to 1.2 seconds as things stand over Barry Baird in second position, and now the gaps will look to start to open just a little bit. JP Ringwood and Simon Underhill, those two drivers close, 0.4 of a second then as they head into the southern loop. But you can see here at this early stage, Connery, they're all in that sort of slipstream train where they're pretty much all on the fringes, but there is no key significant advantage for any of these drivers, thus the fact they have to stay line astern.
Yes, indeed. A lot of sections of these tracks of this track is pretty much single file as we see Simon Underhill go very, very deep on the brakes. The Synology driver just taking the maximum amount of braking he could out of that corner. Perhaps a slight mistake, but that's brought him right onto the back of JP Ringwood right here. Simon Underhill being very, very aggressive at this stage in the race, but can't find a way past just yet.
No, he can't. Side-by-side action, though. Raul Hoban in the 44 has Soren Kroos in the 17 for a little bit of company. He'll back out of it and wait for a better opportunity here. There's a flat-out right-hander here, 140 miles an hour, and one of only two McLaren drivers I've noticed here is Soren Kroos right now. No love for a McLaren then for the Norwegian driver. You can see down on the brakes into Lukey Heights. You have to think that that McLaren really does suit this circuit in terms of top speed.
Well, yes, it can, but I'm sort of surprised I know both drivers haven't actually picked it, since there are a lot of pieces of this track where that straight line speed could be a benefit, and here is one of them coming down across the pit straight out of the final corner. He just manages to stretch those legs in that McLaren so much more than the other GT3 cars, but where that McLaren struggles is in the corners, and that'll spell trouble for the middle sector for Soren Cruz.
Yes, it certainly will. Look back up forward in the field. JPW Ringwood then under a little bit of pressure then from the 007 of Simon Underhill. Once again, he's a little bit closer this time to get himself that opportunity. You can see tucked in right underneath, but just can't quite get that move done. But the battle for third starting to hot up here, Connery. We got the likes then of Tony Baird and Scott Brazier then trying to get through. Brazier, of course, recovering from that poor start that we saw, and it's one of those things that happens, you know, you miss the clutch, you miss a gear somewhere here or there, and you drop 4 or 5 positions, and it does happen. But Brazier now has got to try and run for the hills. Barry Baird there is just ahead of him, so he's in a Baird sandwich right now, and he's looking for that way to gain a little bit of time. His last lap, a 1:27.3.
Yeah, but an absolutely fantastic start to a recovery drive from Scott Brazier. His initial start off the grid, of course, was not all that great, dropping a few positions. Fantastic heads-up driving from those behind him to spot the slow car as he all gets on the dirt coming out of the last turn right here, coming across the stripe for the 5th time. We're on to the 6th lap of this race, but Tony Baird is closing in, coming down into turn 1. I wonder if there's going to be a fight going to be starting relatively soon between these two drivers.
Yeah, and JPW Ringwood then and Simon Underhill. There's a bit of contact and go drifting. Let's go, JPW Ringwood. A Tokyo drift through turn number 1. He does very well to hold the car, but he does lose the position here to Simon Underhill. Oh my word, that could have ended in a lot more tears than it was. Replay on screen. And Connery, it's fine margins like that, especially at the start of a season, that make or break drivers' charges for the title.
Oh yeah, definitely, and Simon Underhill there just sending Ringwood into a involuntary drift, shall we say, there for Ringwood. Well done to keep hold of it. It's fantastic driver skill to keep that on the grey stuff and not bin it into a tyre barrier.
Yeah, and you can see again Raul Hoban then in a lot of trouble because Soren Cruz is looking and looking, but you can see he's trying to play this game of cat and mouse as the 044 machine here, because just ahead of him is the 43 of Dion Phillips, another privateer driver looking to try and find himself a breakaway. This is the battle then for just outside your top 10, 11th position. They've lost a lot of time then to the drivers ahead of the likes of Adam Atherton here in this race, and there is a lot of problems that have been going on, and I think we have to take a second look then and just see exactly what sort of input JPW Ringwood had there on that effect there, Connery, because he had to be spread eagle through that part of the corner and travelling at 140, 150 miles an hour. It's so difficult to keep the car going in a straight line.
Oh yeah, it is very, very, very difficult, and it's quite difficult to save these GT3 cars once you manage to even get them into a slide, as we see some battling between the number 44 of Roel Huben coming down into turn 1 side by side with Dion Phillips. Dion Phillips is that Audi on the inside of the corner, and he will stay ahead just for now, but Roel Huben has to look behind now. There's Soren Cruz in that McLaren, and your previous champions Benjamin Hackson on a recovery drive right now, dropping down to 14 from 7th place. That's a loss of 7 positions for your previous championship winner, so not a great start for him at all. He'll try to make up a few positions to try and reduce the points deficit that he has managed to get this early on.
Yeah, you can see in the first 10 minutes he's already 20 seconds off of your race leader Aaron Nom to the outside then of Soren Cruz. He'll try and go, and he's going to try and hold it around the outside, but he gets a little bit hung out to dry in the mid part of the corner, backs out of it a little bit. We know he likes a little bit of bumping and banging from our experiences elsewhere, Connery. So Ben Hackson, he's certainly no slouch. He knows how to put the car in a fight, and Cruz one's a little bit wide there through Lukey Heights, takes that wider line and opens up the defense then into the next corner, and you can see that forces him to run wide a little bit again, and he's starting to look a little bit on the ropes now with the Norwegian.
Yeah, this section is where the McLaren is perhaps not as good as all of the other cars in this race. It just struggles with those slow speed corners. It can feel like a bit of a tank going through there, but here is where it has the advantage. Coming down the straight, there's Roel Huben just running a little bit wide, shrugs off some speed. Soren Cruz will have this done before turn 1. Will Benjamin Hackson have it done before turn 1 coming around the outside? It's going to be very, very close. Roel Huben just holds the inside, almost a little bit of contact there between him and Benjamin Hackson. Hackson almost goes for a half spin, manages to take it across the grass, manages to keep it pointing in the right direction, but some time lost.
Oh my word, how has he managed to hold that? That's almost as impressive as Ringwood there just a little bit earlier on. And he keeps himself onto the island, which is good. And he's done very well to lose only about a second in lap time then, we can estimate right now. So already a lot has been going on and a lot continues to go on. Already lap traffic starting to play its effect. The likes of Andrew Tobert then getting themselves in the way. Just focus back up then to the battle for second position on circuit. That one down to 7/10 of a second here, Connery. Although we don't think it's going to happen straight away, there is still a lot of time. There's still at least 50-45 minutes to go in a race like this. Patience is a virtue, and it's what a couple of drivers need to learn.
Yes, indeed, it is a race of this length. You can't go completely 100% out of the blocks right from the start. You just have to settle into a rhythm as Aeronom does set fastest lap last time by. There's a car off ahead of these guys. There's Lee Woodburn in that number 36 Audi. He's having some issues. He has to bring it to a stop as some of the cars just fly past him just after 10-1.
Yeah, there are certainly a lot of problems going on in terms of lap traffic with a 48 car grid. That certainly does come into effect. The battle, though, for 8th position out on circuit. You got JPW Ringwood there. You got Adam Atherton there and Lee Bunker as well waiting on the back of that one. 3 cars all looking for a way through. There's the lap car then that we've just seen previously of Woodburn trying to get out of the way of this group. And you can see down onto the brakes is about who is the most opportunistic, and a big wiggle there coming into turn in there for Adam Atherton means that he can't capitalise on the driver of Ringwood there. Had to wait a little bit there, Connery, and that is one of those things, if you don't take your chances, you know, they might not come back again.
Yes, indeed, they might not come back again there, Jake, as ahead of them, JP Ringwood and Lee Woodburn. Woodburn is actually that lap car that JP Ringwood is trying to get past. No doubt that Lee Woodburn will be showing the blue flags right now, and JP Ringwood will almost be like Sebastian Vettel, just complaining about blue flags right now as they go through this very, very tight and twisty section in the middle of that. There goes Lee Woodburn getting out of the way finally. JP Ringwood might be onto the stewards about that one, not getting out of the way fast enough, but as they come through towards the latter end of the lap right now, it is still Aeronom currently leading this one by about 3.6 seconds. That is a great margin to be leading by with only 9 laps done.
Blue flag, out of the way please. Not going to happen there very early on for Ringwood, who just seems to be having the worst bit of luck here and there, and it just doesn't happen. Side by side though, Brazier to the inside of Barry Baird down at the Honda hairpin, and you know what, he scores the position and now he's net even for the race right now. He gets himself back into second position, and now he's got to try and chase down the Estonian of Aeronom, who is out and away by 4 seconds as things stand right now. So Scott Brazier making inroads now and looking to try and find a little bit more. A 26.9 that last time by. Let's compare that to the lap of Aeronom, a 26.8. He's got to find a little bit more, Connery.
Yes, indeed, as we had some side-by-side racing like that between the 0.43 and the 0.17 of Soren Cruz, as they're going very, very, very close in this very sweeping section right here. But Soren Cruz just as a drop back. The cornering speeds of that McLaren isn't really all that great, so the Audi's just going to pull away a little bit. Behind them, though, there was also some side-by-side action as well between Benjamin Hackes and Anne Roll Huben. So all it's getting very, very congested coming through at the just outside the top 10 right here, Jake.
Yeah, it is, and it's pretty much anybody's game when you're looking to try and find that position 1, 2, 3, or anywhere else for the matter of fact. You're just looking to try and find a way through Hackson. Finally around Roll Huben then, and you can see just how much time he's lost here, just being stuck in that pack. He's now almost 30 seconds off the pace of Aeronom, and that is got to be devastating for a driver like him. You've also got to keep your eye out, though, for Adam Atherton then, just coming out of that corner there, that southern loop, turn number 2. Now heading through Stoner Corner here, flat out, left-hander, 150 miles an hour, keeping going, touch right underneath the slipstream then, as he looks to try and find the brakes, a little look to the inside, but again, not really committed, trying to scare the man a little bit wide. Gets that response, but he just can't find a nose down the inside. And I'm starting to think that Atherton's trying a little bit too hard here, Connery, to try and make that move sorted. He's looking for those opportunities. They're appearing for him, but he's just not placing the car in the right position to really capitalise.
No, he isn't, and maybe he's feeling like he's getting held up a little bit right here by JPW Wingwood, but it's one thing catching another car, it's another thing entirely trying to pass them as they're coming down into the hill in braking zone into this right-hander. Again, there's absolutely nothing to separate these two cars right now coming through the final sort of couple of corners right there. There's pair entry, here's the final corner. Adam Athen has to get a good run out of this corner if he's able to capitalize on the straight line speed right here. Just getting into the draft right there, but I don't think he'll be close enough. Lee Bunker is just going to tuck in right behind these guys as well. He's just watching there and stalking.
Yeah, he certainly will be, and I'm just wanting to pay some attention here to a driver who's fallen a long way down right now. As actually we've got some side-by-side between Gelenki and Gregory then as they head towards turn number 1, and it's Gregory on the inside who takes it very comfortably, looking for the cutback. Not going to happen there for the driver of Gelenki there, but Craig Parks at the moment, he is in 15th position, started 3rd, so he's certainly fallen down the order after his own troubles. And you can see Hoban Hackerson and Soren Cruz all clumped up together as they head for the run down in. Hackerson then goes to the inside, Cruz heavily defends, and there's no way through for Ben Hackerson. You might be the current champion, but there's no way that Soren Cruz is going to let you get past.
These guys are absolutely nose to bumper in the just outside your top 10 right there, as we see Roll Huben get very, very close to the back of the Mercedes of Benjamin Hackerson right there. Hackerson in turn trying to get past the McLaren of Soren Cruz right ahead of him as they head uphill right now through this slight left-hander that just tightens a little bit as you come over Lukey Heights. Then you're going back downhill into this downhill braking zone. You have to brake a little bit earlier for that one. As they're just all so close here, Jake. There's nothing to pick between them.
No, there certainly isn't, and now they're allowing Craig Parks onto the back of this group, so this 5-car train is starting to keep its effects. Dion Phillips starting to break away. A good run there through the mid part of the corner for Soren Cruz. Means he just gets that break, and there is the advantage to the McLaren. One of only 2 in the field, and you can see there's just no way that Ben Hackerson can really close that gap down. You can see a little look then from Roel Huben. Not going to be one down to turn number 1. Last lap by, they had themselves into a little bit wide though into the corner goes Dion Phillips and starts to close the gap again. Parks looks to the outside, wide line from Cruz to try and open up the rest of the corner, and you can see Hackerson now going side by side as they head themselves to turn number 3 at Stoner Corner, and also turn number 4 will they go Noah's Ark side by side, 2 by 2, last of the late breakers, let's go. And you can see here Parks to the inside as well. He'll get one, he'll overrun it, and he'll keep the position, but still Hackerson has it there, Connery, as they head to Siberia, and you can see nose to the inside, and I think there's nothing else that Cruz can do.
No, but he's going to take the fight to Benjamin Hackerson as they come out of Siberia into the S's section right here. There's advantage switches between your two drivers as there's contact. There goes Hackerson. He's going to have a heavy impact with the tyre barriers right there, and that will be the end of Hackerson's race.
Oh dear me, and well, replay, let's get that one up on screen because those two were going side by side and it was a game of margins. I think that's the racing incident in my opinion, Connery. You can see they were both fighting for the same piece of track and they weren't willing to budge an inch, and in the end, you can't give an inch. A mile goes away from the driver of Ben Hackerson.
Yeah, if you just watch from behind those two cars, you actually did see that Cruz actually applied the brake in the middle of the corner. So I think he knew what was going to happen, but I think that was just inevitable with how close Benjamin Hackerson was getting. He wanted to try and get the maximum out of the corner and just took a little bit too much. 2 into 1 doesn't go. Racing instant as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, certainly is in our eyes, but the stewards will probably say something a little bit different. Lee Bunker then has got himself ahead of Adam Atherton, who is falling back a little bit there. You also got to look at those drivers trying to find themselves a way through. JPW Ringwood, we talked quite a bit about him in this race already here, Connery. He's managing to just keep his nose clean, find himself a way through, and he's just kept his nose right where he needs to. Currently in P number 8 and hold station quite nicely. Doesn't seem to be under too much trouble right now and is really absorbing the pressure quite well.
Yes, the privateer driver of JPW Ringwood doing very, very well so far. He's up a couple of places. He qualified in 12th and he is up into 8th place right now. So an absolutely fantastic drive from the privateer driver right there. He's currently being chased down by the driver of Lee Bunker. He's also a privateer, so there's quite a few privateers during this race, quite a few newcomers to the series. It's fantastic how much this series has grown. We have quite a lot of cars on the grid. We have around about 50 cars on the grid, which is absolutely fantastic to see. There comes Benjamin Hackerson out of pit lane. He is one lap down right there. There are fast repairs in this series, Jake, but something's going on between the 043 car.
Yes, it is, and you can see move done. Dion Phillips there, bit of contact. He's going to spin it around in the middle of the road, and you can see he does so well to avoid everyone else. Great work then from everyone to make sure that wasn't a bigger incident than it was. A little bit of contact there with the 002 machine, and that was Craig Parks trying to make his recovery. Now you can see Dion Phillips having to do all the work again. Martin Gelenke then is going to try and make himself to get a move somewhere, and for the moment that's not going to happen, but he goes straight on there at the escape road, and that pretty much will say Dion Phillips' day is done. He is going to have to take that all unimportant tow. That is going to be one that is going to struggle him for the rest of the race and potentially a season as well. All eyes then will have to keep on that one later on as we continue forward. But Connery, I don't know what you could quite say about that. We've seen a couple of incidents like those 2-into-1s that don't quite go. Everyone is looking to try and get that position. The waiting game may be coming away a little bit, but something to note at the front of your field, Aeronom had that gap at 5 seconds. It's now come down to 4.1.
Yeah, it's worth noting as Scott Brazier actually deals with a little bit, well, quite a lot of traffic right here. That is quite quickly for traffic to be playing a factor for these guys, but they're catching right up to it. Scott Brazier, this is almost a multi-class race with the traffic right here. Scott Brazier just getting past a few cars. I was about to say it's worth noting that Aeronom and Scott Brazier are both running Team Bushfing paint schemes, I believe, but they're both classified as privateers, so not an official team as such, but they definitely know each other, know each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Oh, you can see there trying to get out of the way of traffic as actually traffic hits the wall. Dave White then hits the same barrier that Hackerson did a little bit earlier on, and that's just the case of everyone is trying to get out of the way of other drivers, and that just didn't work out then. As we can see Ian Robson coming onto pit road, Aeronom has managed to keep himself out and clean for the moment, but you can see he had to check up so much. Connery there did the driver of Scott Brazier in the number 50 machine. You can see just how much they're struggling to deal with this traffic, and we're only 20 minutes into the race.
Yeah, as we see Scott Brazier cross the line, we'll have to see how much time he lost. He lost a grand total of 2 seconds in that lap alone due to the traffic, so that's how much the traffic can play a factor in this one. As I'm looking through the field right now, see if there's any close battling going on. There's still some congestion just outside of the top 10 between Soren Cruz, Roll Cuban, Philip Gregory as well right there. They are currently fighting for 12th place right now. That McLaren driver of Soren Cruz doing very, very well, considering that he's in the McLaren, which in the middle sector here is an absolute tank to try and throw around the corners. As we see a driver coming out of pit lane there, that's Ian Robson, so he hasn't had a really great day at all either.
No, certainly not. And you can see Soren Cruz looking to try and break away from Raul Cuban. And actually he goes straight on there just a little bit, but he keeps himself together on the island just for the moment as he keeps himself ahead here around turn number 2. Southern Loop runs a little bit wide on exit again. That's going to sacrifice momentum as he goes through, starting to make a little bit of mistakes here as the Norwegian. You can see here the driver of Raul Cuban start to close in on the brakes there. Close once again, but close is not going to be good enough at the moment here, as it's especially advantage here to Huben in this middle sector. You can see heads through Siberia, this left-hander looking to try and open up the power as quickly as you can before you hit this left right up Lukey Heights, and that is something that is to be played for later on in this event. You also got likes of Paul Martin and Machish Van Delden here looking to have their own little scrap battle for 15th and 16th. And the pair of them are up a sensational amount of positions. Paul Martin here, he's up a total of, I believe, 19 for the day so far. Great work then for the number 16 machine.
Yep, an absolutely fantastic drive currently for Paul Martin as we start to approach the halfway stage right now. We have around about 34 minutes and 30 seconds remaining in this one. as we see Delden just try and gain as much traction on the exit of the corners as he can in that McLaren. But this is where that straight line speed is really going to come into its own as he closes the gap. Also in the draft right there to the Audi in front of him, Paul S. Martin. You can see that gap closing down, but he's not going to be close enough. Definitely not coming down into the sweeping turn one.
Rolhuben then into pit road as he looks to try and sort his race out then. As you can see, a lot starting to play into the context of this one. Everyone waiting. You can see here Gelenki now trying to get around Dave White. He will. Battle of the Beds though going on for the last spot on the podium. It's the 006 against the 004. Barry Baird in front, Tony Baird behind then here at Phillip Island. You can see that gap has opened up a little bit, was half a second. Expect that to open to about 6-7 tenths of a second here as Barry Baird is looking to try and break away. Gap at the front opens though. It's 6.6 seconds now between Nom and Brazier, and Eru Nom's done a great job, but the battle of the beds continuing here, Connery. 6 tenths of a second into turn number 1.
Yeah, it's the battle between the beds of the replace base, Mercedes right there of Barry Baird and the Seagate Mercedes of Tony Baird, both pro classified drivers in this series, so they've been around for quite a while, had a few decent results as well. They're going to be starting to scrap over this final podium position and not too shortly as Tony Baird just gets it very, very deep on the brakes, just closing up to the back of his relations. I would say I'm not entirely sure if they're brothers or something else here, Jake.
Well, if it's in-laws, there's all the more reason to keep fighting on at it. But for the moment, it seems that the Beds are looking to try and have this big fight then going on. In through turn number 8, up the power, 145 miles an hour. Before you smack the brakes 30 and look to try and get yourself through this corner of Lukey Heights. Double apex left-hander looking to try and run the curb before you head downhill on the brakes. Such a difficult braking zone, so understated around a circuit like this. You're heading down the hill around a corner like that, Connery, going from pretty much 120 miles an hour down to 40 to get yourself into the right-hander and making sure that you're not locking those fronts and going straight on either.
Yeah, it's very, very easy to lock up there. It actually reminds me of the imaginatively named 90-degree corner at Motegi. It's a very, very downhill braking zone, and that corner right there is exactly the same. Perhaps a little bit of a shorter braking zone since it's not just after a straight, but that still makes it difficult to not lock up the brakes coming down the hill. You have to brake a little bit earlier, a little bit harder because of gravity just trying to pull you down the track.
Yeah, that is one of the things that you do have to be a little bit careful of, as again, the 054 finds itself in a little bit of scrap. Actually, down on pit road, as is Ben Hackerson once again. So pit stop starting to come into effect here, and that is going to be playing the game. Craig Parks currently in P number 9 as things stand here, looking to try and get his comeback going. But of course, with everything that's going on here, everyone's looking to try and find the advantage each and which way they can. And for the moment, Craig Parks trying everything to get back into contention in this race.
Yes, indeed he is, as we see a battle starting to heap up yet again between Paul S. Martin and number 16 Audi and Van Delden in that number 8 McLaren right there. I believe Paul S. Martin has gotten past, yes he has, in just not too long ago right there, so that straight line speed from Delden not exactly fending off the Audi right there. This is the section where he's going to be at a deficit. These slow speed corners, the McLaren really doesn't like them. The Audi likes them much more. And speaking of Audis, there's another one right behind him. That's Mike Mason. He may smell blood right here from Delden.
Yeah, he certainly could here, as they're all going to look to try and get themselves up the hill. Gap at the front, though, is open to 7.2 seconds here between Eru Nom and Scott Brazier. As we look at Mathieu van Delden here, looking to try and get himself down onto the brakes into this turn number 10. He hugs the curb very nicely as it's all power here through turn number 11. A little light lift, though, here at a very difficult corner, and it's all about getting the best momentum you can coming out of a corner like this to get this run onto the Gardner straight and into turn number 1 once again. And you can see here it's their 21st lap of the race that they've just done, so looking to try and find themselves some real form of pace here. And at the moment, it seems that they're working out in their favour. Van Delden looking for a way through, but he's got to get right back onto the back. 4 tenths of a second does you well, but you've got to do even more, especially through turn number 2. He has a little look, but he has to back out of it there, Connery.
Yeah, very, very close right there. There's a car off ahead of him. That is Jonathan Bethel in that 58 Audi with the Union Jack on its roof right there. Luckily, he's not literally on his roof. That would be very, very bad for that particular driver. But Van Delden and Paul S. Martin, this battle is still raging on as they come down into the braking zone of this almost hairpin right-hander on the run down into Siberia. This almost hairpin left-hander, is it going to send them up the hill towards Lukey Heights? There's another car off the track right there. There's Matt A. Owen in that number 32 BMW going very, very slow. Ooh, this could be interesting right here, Jake.
Yeah, it certainly could be. Also, keep your eyes on Adam Atherton and Craig Parks. Parks almost ran into the back of Atherton there earlier on in that one as he looks to try and find himself a way through then underneath the toe, looking to try and find himself a little bit of a move. Can he find one on Atherton? He'll look to the inside, and it's a pretty much a gift then in through turn number 1. Parks very comfortably up then into 8th position then on circuit. A good recovery from what was down in the lower part of your top 10. Looking to find a little bit more. Also to look at Neil Bamber and Simon Underhill here. The 005 and the 007 then right next to each other out on circuit. And you can see Neil Bamber is right under that pressure right now as he looks to try and hold on to 6th place, Connery. Haven't seen too much of him. He stayed quite quiet. Simon Underhill there is really looking to try and find a way through.
Yeah, he's been running a really pretty conservative race right now. He's up a couple of positions. Neil Bamber is from 9th to 6th right there, but he has a Synology Mercedes right behind him in the form of Simon Underhill. It's Synology versus Bodine Solutions as they come down the hill into the downhill braking zone right now. There goes Simon Underhill looking for a gap, but he's not going to get it just yet.
Yeah, and into the pits from 3rd place comes Barry Baird. So already we are seeing the pit stops coming in, and now the major contenders are trying to get themselves involved, trying to play the strategy card, looking for that opportunity as he spun in pit entry as well, so that certainly hasn't gone into his advantage, and a lot of drivers then looking to try and find pit road as their big way forward, and also traffic being a problem. Look at Paul Walmsley, look at exactly what he's just had to go through. 4-5 cars that have all been lapped in a certain extent, and that is the sort of troubles that everyone is starting to play with right now, Connery. Traffic, especially when they battle, they seem to have this ability to not know where the leaders are, and that makes their life so much more difficult.
It does. As I said, it's almost like multi-class racing with how much traffic's around. If we actually have a crash with the 13 car right there, I wonder what that one is about. That was Martin Galensky as he gets going yet again. We'll have to see what's happened. He's taking a trip through the gravel trap. Actually, it's contact with Adam Shipstone a lap down. Actually, on the same lap right here because these guys have both paired. And Shipstone just moving towards the right-hand side of the track, just cutting off Galensky a little bit right there, and they both take a trip through the gravel.
Pit leader is in. Aru Nom then from your race lead amassed a 9-second gap before getting himself onto pit road as things stand. In also is the driver of Scott Brazier, so it will be a battle of pit crews, but I don't think we'll see too many problems then from the 041 of Aru Nom, who has been so dominant so far. You can see both of them one after the other. Expect Aru Nom to go first here. They look to try and fill those cars back up again as close to the limit as they possibly can. Tony Baird also in from 3rd. They're all coming in now. Wormsley as well. Underhill right behind him.
Yeah, so your leaders are pitting at this stage in the race. We saw a few early pitters just a little bit earlier as there goes Aru Nom just coming off of pit road right there. He'll have the cars of Phil Bedford and Craig Parks right ahead of them, who are currently going to be lapped at traffic, I believe. We'll have to wait and see for that one as Scott Brazier, he also gets going as well.
Yeah, of course, Craig Parks has not yet made his pit stop. He is there on merit alone. Hasn't yet got himself into the pit, so he's got himself there just that little bit of an advantage. Atherton has dropped off the back of him for the moment. Brazier, not really too much there. In the battle for 3rd position, though, Tony Baird has managed to get that gap exactly how he's wanted it. He's managed to break away there, Connery, and that is exactly what he needs to do. Pressure's off of him now for the remaining half of the race.
Yes, indeed it is, especially with his relation in Barry Baird having some issues getting onto pit road. As we have a look at P9 right now, that's Paul S. Martin just battling with Barry Baird as Barry Baird just gets through, coming down into that tight right-hander just before Siberia right here. Oh, he's just stretching out a massive gap right now. Paul Asmartin, and he has a half spin in Siberia corner, and that is not very, very good for the cameras right there, Paul Asmartin.
No, it certainly isn't, and he was doing a fantastic job where he was currently when he last crossed the line. He was up an astonishing 25 positions. Replay then. Well, actually, we got a pitter in as well. We got Craig Parks coming in then, the 002 net race leader at the time, but he will certainly drop down, but it depends on how much he will drop down if he wants to go through. Phillip Gregory will also come down onto pit road in that 009 machine, keeping a quiet race to himself, doing a good job of things. As things stand right now, you can see everyone just looking for the way through. Neil Bamber now under a lot of pressure there from the driver behind us, Simon Underhill. Those two have been battling before, and now you can see Simon Underhill looking to try and find a way through, tucked underneath, can't do anything about it, has to take to the outside and go around the outside. Let's try it. What a move that is. Simon Underhill, take your hat off, because that is a gem from the top draw, Connery.
An absolutely fantastic pass from Simon Underhill right there, Dick, just around the outside of turn one, no questions asked. Nothing Neil Bamber could have done to stop that move from happening. Absolutely textbook pass around the outside from Simon Underhill. Will Bamber try and reply on the brakes, on the heavy braking zone right here, as actually Simon Underhill pushes wide and then he gives the place back right there. So it's one thing making an impressive move, it's another thing trying to hold it after you've made it.
0-0 in the space of 3 corners. Simon Underhill will have to do that work all over again, and behind him is Bart Daleman, so we'll have to be a little bit careful of that. Of course, they are in position, but the question is, pit stops might have come into play. At the front, the gap has closed down. It's now 6.6 seconds, so Scott Brazier has made some good work in the pit. It hasn't been enough, though, for him to close that gap. The gap down to 6.3 seconds then as they cross the line. In the battles going on even further through the field, it's all about who is where and who is looking for that thing. Soren Kroos will be one of the last cars then to come in and make his stop then, as he looks to put himself down on pit road. Battle of the beds. Well, after that spin, it's now 4 seconds, Connery, and that battle looks to have dissipated.
Yes, indeed it has. They are absolutely miles behind the first and second place drivers of Ironom and Scott Brazier, as there's a car off ahead of Tony Baird right there. That's Jonathan Bethel. He isn't really having a great day at the office, you could say, right here. As I believe we have had actually the car of Soren Kroos just come down pit lane. Actually, he's coming out of pit lane right here, so he has completed his one and only scheduled stop here in this race. He comes out in the 12th position, and there aren't really that many cars around him, so he's in a little bit of clear air where he can set some fast lap times. But just down the road from him, there is a little bit of traffic. John N. Roberts in that number 56 car has Taylor Lane in number 27 right behind him. There's also some traffic ahead of them, as well as they go too wide with Martin Brandon coming through the tight right-hander.
Yeah, and Craig Parks has got to get through all of this. Good respect, those John Roberts, though, a well-respected driver in the community, and looking for a way through. Parks has to run a little bit wide there, and that's going to cost him a lot of times. They look to go 3 wide behind, which turns back to 2 again as Parks looks to try and find a way to get back to lead bunker, who has Adam Atherton there just ahead of him. Battle for 9th place out on circuit, and Aeronom has lost a lot of time, ladies and gentlemen. He is now back to just 3 seconds, and I can tell you why. There's a lot of traffic to deal with for Scott Brazier as he looks to try and thread 2 for that prize of 1 as they head to Honda. A lot of traffic to deal with, and that's 5 cars in 1 lap that Erulom has lost half of his lead so far there, Connery.
Yeah, but I think Scott Brazier is being held up just as much as Aeronom did. All of this traffic ahead of him is an absolute roadblock ahead of him, so he has to be very, very careful. He can't rush these lapped car passes right here, and it requires respect between both Passee and Passer as he goes down towards the inside of Chris Butterhill right there. And he has Ryan D. Walker ahead of him and Ryan Atmore as well. He has to negotiate, but he's just losing time to the front by being stuck in this traffic.
Yeah, he is, and the blue flag cam certainly up, and he will be trying to say to Stewart, you know, come on, let me through. I want to get back to Aeronom. I had a chance of winning if I could get through this cleanly, and now you can see here just the disadvantage of being stuck in this traffic, because on the straights they can run pretty much as quick as you, but you can't do anything about it. You can see he may close in this gap, but already that gap, which went down to 3 seconds, up to 5.8. Expect that to continue to grow in the upcoming laps here as he tries to get himself down the inside here of the driver Ryan D. Walker. He will try and get that one sorted, and he does get it sorted as the other car there manages to run wide as well. So Scott Brazier finally gets past his roadblock, but with just 20 minutes to go, it's starting to look less and less likely.
Yeah, that was actually a baleful position that was going on ahead of Scott Brazier right here, as he just loses so much time to the front, and he has yet another lap car ahead of him in the form of Andrew Talbot right there. So just yet one more car to try and get past, but I'm looking at the relative timings right now. We'll get a more accurate picture when they come across the stripe, but it's back up to 6.3 seconds, the relative gap between Aerodom and Scott Brazier. Those are the P1 and 2 drivers in your race right now.
Yeah, they are at the moment, and actually something that we need to see. Craig Parks has lost the lap. He's had himself an incident on circuit, and that recovery drive has now become a desperate scrabble for points, and he can't find anything no matter what letter he'll pull out the bag. So now it's just the cackle going on down in your mid part of your top 20 right now. You got the 044 who was all in that battle earlier on. That's Raul Huben, and just behind him is the 052 machine there of John Cook, Alan McCain actually, who's just got through on John Cook this lap. So John Cook has lost a position here, looking to try and get it back here on the 010 machine, and for the moment, not happening.
Not happening yet, indeed, as they head up on the run down up towards Lukey Heights. It is actually literally upwards towards it. It's a massive hill that these drivers have to negotiate. They come over the top of it during this long left-hander right here, and then it's downhill braking zones to the right-hander afterwards. The elevation changes as you just look at the car of Danny Thomas right there, the 040. He had a little bit of a moment coming across the top of Lukey Heights, and that's what the elevation changes can do.
Yeah, that is one of the things that you have to look at. We do have a couple of cars out of this event. We've got Craig Williams, who failed to take the start, Dion Phillips, Matt Owen there, Ben Hackerson, a big key name, and Jason Withrow as well is 6 laps off the pace here in your event. We only have 21 cars currently scored on the leading lap right now. Adam Shipstone is the last of those drivers to continue going. As you can see, a little bit of a scrap going on in the mid part there. You got John Roberts there, Taylor Lane looking to try and have a little scrap. Soren Cruz coming up towards this group now as they all get close onto the brakes. You can see Lane there side by side, and then Soren Cruz looking to try and get himself past this little train, and he'll get past one, and then he looks to try and get past another. So traffic still playing its role, and an even heavier role as they come later on into the race, Connery.
Yes, indeed it is, as we watch Soren Cruz in that one of only 2 McLarens in this race to try and deal with that traffic. And it's worth just explaining the classifications right here. Some of your drivers, you'll notice, have like green pro stickers on the back of their cars. That means they're perhaps a little bit more experienced than the rest of your drivers in this field. In this series, you also have the AM drivers as well, which are the orange stickers. And I think there's a requirement here that a team must have at least 2 AM drivers, 2 pro drivers. So there's a little bit of competition in between perhaps those less experienced with the series and those with more experience. And you also have one final class as well. That would be the privateers. Those are the drivers that perhaps are new to this series and don't have a team, and they have to prove their worth in the privateer class to be able to be promoted.
Yeah, and you have to say at the moment, Aeronom is making the brightest example, saying, come on, pick me, because he is certainly doing a great job. Actually, something to look, though, is the battle for the podium. Barry Baird and Tony Baird, the 2 Bairds, looking to go at it. And, well, there were 2 in the Baird, and the little one said move over, because Barry Baird has brought the gap down to within 2 seconds, and he's looking to try and close that gap down onto the 004. And at the moment, Barry doing a great job, Connery, and it might just be a matter of time in the remaining quarter of this race.
It may be just a matter of time here, Jake, but he's running out of it right now. We have around about 15 minutes left of this race right here, and I'm just checking the times as they come across the stripe. That is Barry Baird, which is the driver behind, going about 4/10 faster than the other Baird, Tony Baird, right in front of him right there. So Barry Baird is catching slowly but surely, but whether he'll be able to get the pass done by the end of this race is another question.
Yeah, it certainly will be, and yeah, also have to
Oh,
remember...
there goes Tony Baird taking a spin towards the grass just after, in the first sector of this track, actually. He just gets it on the curb, coming on the exit of the corner. It just spins him right around into the grass, and actually Barry Baird will get that pass done for definite before the end of this race. Tony Baird having problems.
And there was the pressure cooker telling as he loses the position. Now just behind Tony Baird is the driver of Simon Underhill. So he's lost positions to Paul Walmsley and Neil Bamber as well for 5th and for 6th position. He's now in 6th and now looking at 7th behind it. Oh, getting close. They almost touched Simon Underhill, looking for a little bit of track, and it certainly fell away from him there. So Simon Underhill senses the opportunity here, and you can see now it's a case of survival for these drivers as tiredness may start to come in at the end of the stint.
He may well have to just manage this race towards the end. I'm looking at the damage in the front of that Seagate Mercedes right there of Tony Baird. It's all punched in. It looks like the car's been punched in the face right there, which won't be helping his aerodynamics or his straight line speed to Simon Underhill right here. Simon Underhill will have the benefit of the draft. Tony Baird is a little bit too far forward to be making a move right now, but expect Simon Underhill to start catching lap by lap.
Yeah, that does seem to be the key here as Lee Bunker and Adam Atherton incredibly close once again. A little bit of lap traffic as well, trying to deal with that here as they head down the front straightaway. You can see Atherton looking to tuck in underneath here in the toe of the driver ahead of Dave White. He'll need to get out of the way. He is lap traffic and down to the inside of turn number 1. You can see White gets out of the way. Well, doesn't have to let Lee Bunker through, but he does let Lee Bunker through. That closes the gap up then, and the opportunity will arise here in the battle for 9th position on circuit. You can see running wide there, Dave White off the exit. It's such a difficult corner there, turn 2. Off camber you go, and it's one of those struggling things. But again, Adam Atherton just gets an eclectic run of pace there off of the corner, and there's nothing that Lee Bunker can do. Atherton holding on for dear life right now to 9th position, Connery.
Yes, both of these drivers are privateer drivers, so these points will matter in the privateer championship. There's like separate championships between your pro-am and privateer drivers in this series, so we'll have to keep an eye on each of them as we go through this series, especially towards the end of it as the championship battles start to close up. But it is early doors in this season so far, and it's shaping up to be a fantastic one.
Yeah, and Scott Brazier actually in at the 50. I think he's made a mistake somewhere because the gap has come rocketing up. It's now 16 seconds overall, so he's certainly lost a lot of time. Do have a battle though between the 044 and the 003. Roll Hoban there at the front of this one here as they head through Lukey Heights. A little look to the inside then won't happen there for the driver just behind. That is Jason Dilworth looking to try and get a way through. John Cook has already found a way through there on these two, and you can see pretty much nose to tail. Roll Hoban will start to fall down the order then. He's -1 then for the day as Jason Dilworth, who qualified 6th on the grid, remember, now looking to try and get himself a way through. He's kept very quiet after his early incident. You can see tucked right underneath the slipstream. Maybe has to look to the inside. The outside certainly not going to happen then, and cannot use the parabola midway through the corner. Has to stay behind. May have a look into turn number 2. No, the move is covered off very well. So great defending in the middle of your pack there, Connery.
Yep, Jason Dilworth racing for the Acorn Printing team as he tries to get through on the privateer driver of Royal Huben right here. He's getting very, very close to that rear wing of that Mercedes right there. He'll pull towards the inside. Will he get it done on the brakes? Jason Dilworth, and that is a textbook pass on the brakes there by Dilworth.
Yeah, Dilworth the time and effort, and he certainly tries to keep going. Now he's got to keep on that momentum and try and get past the likes of John Cook. And 2 seconds down the road from that, it's Alan McCain who he's got to try and close down in the remaining time in this race. We are looking towards the 10-minute warning in this event. As you can see, a lot still to play for in terms of this race. Everyone's still looking for a way to get themselves forward, a way to get themselves into some very secure early points in this season. But one man out and away is Arunam in the 041. 16.3 seconds the gap right now. But looking further back, though, that battle for 9th starting to open up a little bit here, Connery. Now open to 0.7 of a second between Atherton and Bunker. Atherton doing a great job.
He is doing a great job, and time is running out for Lee Bunker. I have a slight clarification / correction to make. There is actually no prizes awarded for privateer drivers in this series. Prizes shall be awarded for Pro and AM category overall top 3 finishing positions at the end of this series. So the privateers drivers, they don't really have anything to lose if they just decide to let another car by. They're not really in it for any prizes whatsoever, but the AM drivers and the Pro drivers, they definitely are.
Yeah, they certainly are at the moment. If you want to know what is happening between that battle we saw early on with Simon Underhill and Tony Bed, that gap's starting to open up a little bit, but an interesting little scenario going on here, Connery. You got Simon Parks, who has really tried to make a run of pace, qualified second. He's now a lap down after an instant, looking to try and recover through this race. And the big problem that he's got right now is the fact that he is lap traffic that he is trying to get through on cars that don't have to let him through. It's a 22 for Underhill. Do you let him go in this situation, or do you try and stay ahead and battle him and hope that he just goes away?
Oh, as we almost see Craig Parks force the issue right there. He's just saying, I don't care if you're a lap ahead of me. I want my way through. I want some of the track to get past you. And I don't think Simon Underhill will be too impressed with that one. He's about 2 seconds behind the car in front of Tony Baird. He has a 10-second advantage to JPW Ringwood, so I don't know. His time is running out during this race, as Craig Parks says. Actually, I'm just going to do it right here in this 90, almost hairpin right-hander right there, and he does get it done. And now, if you're Simon Underhill, do you consider, maybe Craig Parks is going to help me here, because I will have the benefit of his draft, and he looks like the faster car at this stage in the race, so he can drag me right up to Tony Baird.
Yeah, that might be the situation he goes in, but something else that I've just seen there, an incident with Paul Martin there in just coming out of turn number 10 on circuit, and it's one that almost caught out second place driver Scott Brazier. He had to take evasive action through the exit of the corner, a big wiggle, and he's very lucky that the car wasn't turned around, was the 050. He's lucky he's got a 12-second gap to the car of Barry Baird behind. But for the moment, you know, there are some liberties that you can't afford to take this late on in the race. And it's one of those where the traffic is heavy in a situation like this. Got about 8-9 cars all together. And Barry Baird coming up on it right now. A lot to play for, Connery, come the end of this race.
Yeah, as we look at the 52 and the 3, that is John D. Cook and Jason Dilworth right there. They are having a fight coming down into this tight and twisty section right at the middle of the lap right here. There's Jason Dilworth just trying to find the gap as actually we come through the final corner right here. Jason Dilworth just compromising his entry a little bit, looking for a better exit. And look at the drive off of the corner for the Acon Printing car right there of Jason Dilworth. He'll get this pass done right before the braking zone of turn 1, and that is how you do a pass out of the final corner. Just getting a better momentum, better exit out of the final corner that benefits you all the way down the straight, and Jason Dilworth capitalized on it.
And the problem there was John Cook. He managed to get himself just running a little bit wide. Had to tap the brakes in case he was going to put 2 tyres on the dreaded grass around here. Not one of those circuits where you see runoff. This is naturally aspirated in terms of the fact that your course is going to get itself together. And again, John Cook looking to the outside, looking for a way through. Maybe a cutback might be the opportunity to Siberia. No, can't get himself enough of a way through, and it's one that has struggled with him just for the moment there, Connery. And you had to say that one chance to get it back, gone, blink of an eye.
No, and John Cook is running quickly out of time right here. We have 6 minutes remaining in this race, so only a couple of laps to go. And oh, this is going to be very, very close between John Cook and Jason Dilworth. But Jason Dilworth, he looks a little bit too fast for John Cook at the moment as they come up on some lap traffic. That was the Ford GT of Rolf Justin at number 20 Ford GT, just getting out of the way very, very nicely, very, very courteously.
Yeah, he certainly is. Aeronom getting himself out of turn number 11 right now, looking towards turn number 12. Not a lot that you can really do right now here as he's heading around the final corner. No real dramas of note for Aeronom. He's kept the nose quiet, he's kept it clean here. Just seeing the time as he comes across the line. The timer on the clock is 54 minutes and 44 seconds, so 5.25 minutes then left to go in a race like this. If my math serves me correct, that is 4 more laps to go. But something of note then in the last 4 laps, look at the 012 machine there. That is Paul Wormsley here, who has himself a little bit of unwanted company there. That is Neil Bamber just behind in the battle for 4th, Connery. With just a few laps to go, he'll be looking to try and break away, but at the moment, his lap times don't suggest the same.
Yeah, it's going to be Replace Space versus Bodine Solutions right here as they come across the start-finish line for one of your final times during this race. Can Neil Bamber catch back right to the back of Paul Wormsley right there? I'm just going to check the times. Paul Wormsley did a 1:29.1 that time by. Neil Bamber, a 1:28.8. Bamber is catching, and oh, if you're Paul Wormsley, you're just hoping that the race is going to end this lap instead of the next couple.
Yeah, and that's what he can't have any liberties with. Time is not on his side, and the gap is coming down. And he's got to be very careful about the way he arranges the car here in this battle for 4th. So many points at stake, can't afford to lose any of it, and Bamber will just sit and wait and hope that there is going to be a mistake from Wormsley, very similar to the mistake that we saw Tony Baird make earlier on around the mid part to late of this race. And there is not enough time, maybe you could say, for Neil Bamber to close that gap down. In fact, Wormsley's just got the hurry up message. He's starting to find a turn of pace, Connery, and he's starting to get away a little bit.
Yes, he is, as he just stretches out the gap just a little bit, and that's all he really has to do. Either keep the gap consistent or start to pull away in the late stages of this race. He can't afford to be dropping back, but this is going to be a factor, Jake. There's some lap traffic ahead of him that can throw a spanner in the works in this fight.
Yeah, there's 2 bits of lap traffic ahead of him. Dave White is one, Simon Jackson is the other, as these two will now look to try and get out of the way then of this 012 machine. Down the front straightaway, they will come along looking for turn number 1, this right-hand corner. A small light lift, 169 miles an hour down to 130 miles an hour. As you can see, he continues just to release and trail brake that car as he then heads into the southern loop, then opens out the corner. One will go off in Simon Jackson, the other will follow in sympathy, and that clears the traffic for Wormsley, and that's exactly what he wanted to see as he looks to try and break away. Well, you can see though, in that gap, it's 43 seconds to the leader, and it just shows you how much of a differential there is in terms of trying to get this race done. Wormsley holding on for dear life with just a few laps to go.
That's exactly what he has to do, hold on for dear life, as he misses the apex of Siberia right there. That's not really going to help him all that much. He just loses another 10th or so to Neil Bamber. But oh, this is going to be very, very close if Paul Wormsley continues to lose a little bit of time to Bamber right now. And there's a little bit of overuse of flashing the headlights right here, Jake. So obviously that means I'm fast to get out of the way, right?
Well, it certainly can be used as a distraction technique as well. You can flash the headlights, hope they miss the braking point. We saw it very clearly in the 24 hours of Le Mans. Mitchell de Jong was desperate to find a way through on what was the friction racing car with probably Marcus Hamilton behind the wheel. And you saw the lights at every given opportunity go and say, you know what, I want a way through, I want a way through. I think something very similar is going to be there. But actually, Adam Atherton has gone off then, and he has lost that position in that long battle with Lee Bunker with just 2 laps to go. So a very devastating moment there, Connery, for a driver who'd been holding on for the majority of the race.
Yeah, but he only just loses the 1 position right now. He's down into 10th place right now, so that could have been worse. Definitely, he could have binned it into a barrier instead of just making a slight mistake. So Adam Yassen just has to bring it home now. There's not too long in this race to go, as I believe there's Eru Nom coming through the final corner right now. This will be the white flag here in the Synology GT3 series for the first round.
Yeah, and you can see here this final lap on board with Eru Nom then, 59 minutes and 9 seconds. This will be the last lap in through turn number 139 miles an hour. Looking to try and hold it. Bit of traffic ahead. 2 cars to deal with, and there's a slow car. Yep, Spinner there in the middle of the track. Gets himself out of the way. No worries then for the Ford GT car of Eru Nom there. And Yo 41 negotiates the southern loop very nicely, then heads through turn number 3. This is Stoner Corner, named after Casey Stoner, a winner of the MotoGP Championship. On the brakes, then into Honda. Right-hander, right down on the brakes. One of the toughest braking zones, 47 miles an hour before hitting on the accelerator again. Small kick right. Don't really negotiate it as a corner, but it counts as you head into Siberia. That's a little bit different, though. You're carrying that at 70 miles an hour before you get yourself back up onto the accelerator. Small kick left. Even bigger kick though to the right, and you're taking it at pretty much a little light lift at 135 miles an hour. Up the hill you go here at Lukey Heights, and it's been one of those races where you keep yourself out of trouble and hope that everyone else goes away, and all have fallen before him, and the so-called rolling Estonian just has 2 corners to go and could be considered one of the best iRacers in the world today. You take a bow. Arunom, 1 corner to go, and surely, barring any mishaps, he is surely going to be the first winner of the 2017 Synology GT3 Championships. What a win for Arunom. 2nd place, surely, as we wait a little bit, we'll go to the number 50 machine of Scott Brazier, then heading around the final corner, and 3rd will go, surely, to the 006 machine of Barry Baird, who has done very well to get himself up into that podium as he sits in a roller coaster of traffic right now. A lot has happened, Connery, and the battle for 4th still on.
It is still on, but I think Walmsley has it right now. He only has a couple of corners to go. In fact, he only has 1 corner to go as he comes through the entry to the final corner. Just gotta keep it on the grey stuff. Make sure you get your X right there. Very conservative on the exit right there, actually, as Walmsley will come across the line for 4th position. Neil Bamber will have to settle for 5th right here. But what an absolutely fantastic race we have seen for the first round in the Synology GT3 Championship. Arunom, an absolutely dominant drive, Jake.
Yeah, an absolutely dominant drive, and an absolutely dominant drive that they've done well. The battle for P12, though, that will go down towards the end of this one. The 017 of Soren Cruz has himself a little bit of worries behind him because Dilworth's coming, and it's gonna be one of those drag races. Bit of slipstream to help, though, as they drive to the line, and Soren Cruz, for all intents and purposes, will hold on for that one. A very resilient defense then from the Norwegian, but we can get classified results then up on your screen for you. This is how everything has ended up in the end. Arunom then, a dominant victory here at Phillip Island. He takes it by 18 seconds over Scott Brazier in the 50. Barry Baird, the first of the Bairds, will come home in 3rd. Paul Walmsley will come home in 4th position. Neil Bamber trying his best but can't quite get there in 5th in the 005 car. Tony Baird, after his spin, will come home 6th with Simon Underhill in 7th. JPW Ringwood does well in 8th with Lee Bunker Knight, and Adam Atherton making that spin in the last 3 laps, gets himself down to 10th. And then you see the 2nd page, Philip Gregory, Soren Cruz, a great job from him. Dilworth, good recovery to 13th after his troubles with Alan McCain and John Cook, the last of the cars on the lead lap. And then you see the likes of Roel Huben, Machish van Delden, there with Mike Mason, Bart Daleman, there with Adam Shipstone, Ryan Walker, Paul Martin is there as well with the likes of Bedford, Galenki, Craig Parks. What happened to him? Had himself in a position where he was looking at maybe a top 5. That one fell away and only managed 25th. And you look further down, the likes of Beresford, the likes of Anthony Marsh, the likes of your reigning champion, Ben Hackerson, not finishing the race. Crucial for the title picture already. And a lot more can be said. Post-race coverage will come after this. You're watching the Synology GT3 Championship here on iRacing Live and Racebot TV. Don't go away. Well, the craziest races certainly come towards the mid of the pack, but it was a clear one in the end for Aeronom, who takes the initiative, heading back over the water as round 2 will go to Daytona, if my memory serves me correct. But for the moment, this was the race that we saw of what was a circuit of Phillip Island, and we have our race winner with us right now. Aero, a fantastic race win for you, just got yourself out and clear and away, but 6/10 of a second in qualifying, that's nothing to shake a stick at.
Yeah, that was that was pretty good in the quali, but the race pace was quite a bit slower.
Well, certainly you could say maybe that was, but you had yourself in the opening stages, opening up those little bits of a gaps here and there, looking to try and find yourself a way to break away from the cars behind the likes of Scott Brazier, but for you, it just seemed to happen slowly, a little bit, and you always had that gap around 6 seconds here and there, but the traffic, you're certainly getting held up 2-3 seconds a lap, especially around a big grid like this.
Yeah, the traffic is definitely the most important things. Because I think the craziest race I've ever had in traffic.
Well, it certainly can be. You're looking at left and right, of course. You take the lead of the championship, moving on into the next race of the season, which will be next week here. And it's one of those things where, you know, everyone now knows what to expect. The standard has been set by you. Are you expecting people to give you, say, more of a challenge next week?
Yeah, you never know. Maybe, yeah. I hope.
A man of...
Definitely Scott, I think, and Parks will.
Yeah, maybe they will indeed. A man of few words, Aeronom then, race winner in the 041 machine. Standing by then with Connery Maddock will be the driver who came home in 3rd position, and that will be Barry Baird.
Hello there, Barry, and it's been a very, very interesting race for you. You were almost caught up in a battle between yourself and your relation. Can we specify what that relation is? Because we said you were brothers at the start of the race. I'm not entirely sure if that's correct.
We're twin brothers.
Oh, you are brothers, so we were right.
Yes. You are
Okay.
Right. It was an interesting race. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and so thank you for BOSRA putting this championship on. It was eventful. Had an interesting pit entrance, spinning just as I was going in. But other than that, it was reasonably okay. Well, it was not quick enough to catch the top 2 guys. They were different class.
Yeah, they were absolutely off and away, but looking towards the next few races this season and later on this season, are you able to try and maybe close that gap to the front 2? They're very, very quick indeed, but do you think they're completely unbeatable even though we're only 1 round in at the moment?
We're 1 round in, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done to try and catch up that pace. There's quite a big time difference between us, so there's got to be a lot of work done to catch them up, but I think it'll still be a fun championship, and you never know what's going to happen with back markers with 60 cars on the track.
Yeah, and it's something we asked Aero as well while he was in for his interview. There seemed to be quite a lot of traffic out there, and I made the comment on the broadcast that it seemed like it was more like a multi-class race with how much traffic was on the track. Was that concerning you?
I just took it very easy. There was a small instant where a back marker did on the pit straight just driving to the side of my car, but there's 60 cars on a track. No matter what track we're on with this championship, it's going to be tight. We're going to be catching them up very quickly.
Yes, indeed you might. And that was Barry Baird coming home on the final spot of the podium. 3rd place for Barry Baird. Back to you, Jake.
Yeah, standing by now with me is Neil Bamber. Neil, the 005 machine, a 5th place finish, started 9th, made some good gains there up through the field. For you, a case of slowly picking off your targets one after another, a day where all your rivals seemingly fell around you, the likes of Hackson, likes of Parks, a good points haul, you could say.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't expect to have a top 10 was all I was aiming for, really. So with the other guys falling off the track, that's a good result to start the season with.
Yeah, it certainly is a good result. And for you, the latter parts of the latter parts of the race, you could say, was certainly one with intrigue. You had yourself Paul Walmsley there just ahead of you, you're trying to deal with. And for all intents and purposes, you get yourself within about a second, just would start to come away from you. So for you, 4th place was certainly looking on the cards.
Yeah, I mean, I had a bit of a tangle with him. Well, not a tangle, but I was really close with him a few points of the race, and he's got a really wide Merc. so I knew if I could catch up with him, getting past would be very difficult anyway. But I could get up to about within a second, and then I just burned my tyres up, and he was away again. So I'm happy with fifth. It's great that.
Yeah, it's one of those cases of what can you do, but Daytona Road will call. We're going to go under the lights for that one. Makes a completely different dynamic. One of the few night races here around this Synology GT3 series. So you have to say, Daytona, is it a track that suits you? Very similar dynamics in some respects to Phillip Island, and in some cases, a lot different.
Yeah, I don't mind Daytona. It'll be a bit different being under the lights at night there. Top 10, it'll be my aim again, and see where we can go from there.
Yeah, it might be one of those things to look out for in the future. Keep an eye on this driver, Neil Bamber, coming home in 5th position. Maybe a dark horse come the end of this one, but Connery standing by with the driver who came home in 9th position overall. He stood by with Lee Bunker.
Hi guys.
Hello there, Lee. You ended up finishing in the 9th position, so just inside the top 10 and improving on your qualifying position. You qualified in 15th. How was your race? Just as a general question to ask to start us off.
It was really quite good. Really difficult track to overtake or make any passes on, so yeah, it was hard work. I think the entire hour underneath somebody's rear wing.
Yep, and it's a issue that we had been discussing with all the traffic that was out on the track. It did seem like that you guys were dealing with traffic almost constantly throughout some parts of that race, but you were fighting with some of the guys around you. Adam A. Atherton having a little bit of an issue coming into the final stages of that race, just running a little bit wide, letting you through right there into 9th place. But how about the competition in your section of track in particular? Because in and around that top 10 right there, so the positions from 9th all the way down to around about 15th, that was very, very fierce fighting going on right there.
Yeah, there's nothing in it. It's literally, if you get a single run or somebody in front of you is covered by a back marker, that's the only chance you've got. Else you are literally nose to tail the whole way through.
Yeah, and it does end up being a thing that can allow some absolutely fantastic racing indeed, especially a tight and twisty tracks such as this, as Phillip Island can get tight and twisty coming through the middle to the latter part of the lap. And how about a little bit of a comment on the balance of performance between the couple of GT cars right here? You were running in the Mercedes, I believe. Please.
I'm in the BMW.
Oh, you're actually in the BMW right there. So any struggles with the car handling coming around this track?
No, it's one of them. The Merc is definitely better coming off onto the straight, so you couldn't get a run on the Merc. The only chance you had is to try and stay with him through turn 2 and get him on the brakes to the hairpin. The Audi, you seem to be able to pull all the way through the sweeper onto the straight and off. But whatever you gained there, you lost in the slow corners with the BM, so it's really nothing in it.
Of course, in this series, you can actually change the car, but you do have to notify the race admins with sufficient notice to be able to do that. Speaking of car makes and models, though, Aeronom and Scott Brazier both are in the Ford GT, so the Ford GT definitely seem very, very strong around here, but I'll have to hand this one back to Jake as well, as we have a few more other people for interview, unless he wants to wrap it up.
Well, we got quick fire interviews coming in. We got the driver of Roll Hoban there in the 044 coming in. Roll, a day that finished for you, 1 lap down in 16th position, but some cracking fights throughout the field.
Yeah, what a race, amazing.
Certainly was amazing for you. We saw in the opening parts of the race your battles with the likes of Soren Cruz and all those drivers in and around there, likes of Philip Gregory as well. You know, you see those drivers battling along. Are you looking for maybe just that little bit of an advantage here and there, maybe a 1/10 of a second to break that stranglehold of being stuck in major fights throughout the entirety of the race?
Yeah, at the start of the race, the first 20 minutes, I really tried to push, but after my pit stop, I really struggled with my tires and I had to leave the fights to the other guys. So, too bad, but I enjoyed the race a lot.
Enjoyed the race a lot, but Daytona Road comes calling next week. How do you feel about Daytona Road? Is it a circuit that maybe you're feeling gives yourself a bit more of an advantage coming in?
Yeah, I drove the track last week for, I believe, 7-8 hours in total in race time, so I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm hoping to get another top 20 finished.
Hoping to get another top 20. Raoul Huben then looking for an opportunity. Very quickly though, Connery Maddock, quickfire interview with Jason Dilworth.
Yes, I have Jason Dilworth right here with me. You qualified 6th place, but you did drop back a couple of positions down into 13th. As Raoul just cuts in with a little bit of a comment right there. Jason Dilworth. So not really the race that you probably would have wanted considering your qualifying pace, Jason.
No, definitely not. I had a bit of a nightmare in the first corner and the first lap in general, but overall fighting back through the field was pretty good fun. There was a lot of people having issues, so to get back up to 13th was a bit of a surprise after that first lap.
Yep, and things were a little bit congested on that first lap. We had the likes of Scott Brazier just getting an absolutely terrible start, just dropping back through the field, but he managed to get back up to near the top right there. But it's a question that we brought up with some of the rest of your drivers right here. The absolute sheer amount of traffic, how well did you do all that?
I don't mind a bit of traffic, do quite a bit of the endurance stuff, so I don't mind going through some traffic, but that was really congested, and that first lap, especially with Scott getting a bit of a shocker of a start, and I got a relatively decent one. I think that stuck us 3 wide, I don't know with who else, there's just not enough room for that, so we really struggled with that, but I think everyone will get used to the amount of congestion at the different tracks. Daytona's a much bigger track, I think, for getting past a lot of the traffic, so it should be good next week.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too much of an issue at Daytona. You have all of those long straights and bank corners to be able to get past some lapped traffic. But I think we should end the interview there as we hand things back to Jake Sperry to wrap up the show. What a fantastic first race of the season it has been here, Jake.
Oh, it certainly has been, and all more can happen out of that. Don't forget, RaceSpot TV Primetime continues all this week. You've got the Prototype and GT Challenge coming along from Spa-Francorchamps tomorrow night at 7:50 GMT. Don't forget, Raven Graphics also going to be coming along in the early hours of the morning for your NASCAR fans. The Formula Renault 2.0 Championship will come back on Friday from Sebring. Join myself and Paul Smith for that one. And of course, the big one will be happening for 24 hours of Daytona this weekend. Keep your eyes peeled for that. And also the Skip Barber 2K World Cup Series in the Sunday evening as well. That has been Connery Maddock. That has been Hugo Louis behind the cameras. I've been Jake Sperry. And that is a rolling Estonian just finding himself one step closer to being all conquering and all dominant. A perfect start from the perfect man. Good night.